Hey everybody, Jason Blaha here with Ice Cream Fitness. Today I'd like to talk to you about protein intake. Give you guys a bicep shot first. Alright. Normally, again, I like to really rag on the bro science, and I like to really kind of discredit information that's in magazines because for the most part it's mostly bullshit and garbage. And there's actually generally very little useful training or nutrition knowledge coming out of a magazine. But that aside, when you start looking at protein intake requirements, the general recommendations for protein intake you see in magazines actually isn't really that far off the mark. A lot of times they will recommend that you consume about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, which is around 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And when you start to look at the research a bit, it seems to be that you can make optimal muscle gains in a caloric surplus when you're bulking when you consume, right around 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is about 0.9 grams per pound of body weight. So they're not really far off the mark there. Interestingly enough, though, what you find is that when you study lean athletes who are in a caloric deficit, an isocaloric diet, and they're trying to lose weight, they generally need a little more protein in order to preserve lean muscle mass optimally. So when cutting, it actually seems that you need closer to 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is going to put you, if you want to put that into pounds, right around 1.1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So generally, whether you're bulking or cutting, it's going to determine what you need to consume there, and those are actually good general guidelines. And I generally recommend that you don't look at protein as a percentage of your caloric intake, but rather look at it in terms of grams uh, versus body weight and need. And again, part of the reason for that being, uh, things like the zone diet and things were based off percentages of your diet coming from different macronutrients, but that's really arbitrary. You need to look at just the actual intake of these things. And when you look at the math behind it, it should become plainly obvious what the problem with that is. A lot of popular diets will recommend that you get, for bodybuilding purposes, about 40% of your calories from protein. If you're on a big caloric surplus, you might actually find that pushes your actual protein needs way over what is suggested and above what is optimal, which, again, it isn't necessarily a negative, meaning if you're just replacing dietary carbs or something with extra protein, it's not necessarily going to hurt your gains. It's just that it's wasteful and you might be spending a lot more money for expensive carbs because that's what your body is going to do with surplus protein. If your protein intake gets too high, your body's just going to break down those amino acids in the liver and it's going to convert them into glucose, so they're going to become carbs. So that's something to consider there. And then when you start getting into caloric deficits, you might actually find that if you're in a deep deficit and cutting hard, you might find that getting 40% of your calories from protein isn't actually enough to hit that 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. And so again, you might actually find yourself slightly protein deficient and risking losing a little muscle mass. So again, I recommend that you stick really with just grams rather than percentages of your diet. And that's really all I have to say on the topic of protein intake today. Give you guys another bicep shot, and I'll talk to you next time.